topic. Today, basically, I'm going to look at basically how we can actually transform human capital into a whole new fundamentals of become more effective, so that you can able to manage the changing situation of today's economy and the way the workplace it is. So the topic is advance your career. Okay. Now, what is interesting compared to maybe 10 years ago, we talk about knowledge worker. Today, it is not just knowledge worker. Learning become a very fundamental requirement we want to be successful. What I find over the years is unfortunate that we don't encompass enough learning fundamentals, all right? And not only that, execution is also very important. And for me, knowledge is no more a commodity. In actual fact, we can collect a lot of information from almost anywhere else with the advancing technologies. We can actually learn a lot of information. But the question is this: can we progress ourselves to become more effective? Can we actually transform an organization by becoming more successful in the way how we want to do things? All right. First of all, let's put an overview. What is this learning, knowledge, and competence? Now, basically, in this rapid changing world, we have to agree one thing is this. It's not so much that we don't have the knowledge. I think a lot of time we have huge amount of information. In fact, we're flooded with a lot of information. But the issue here is this: do we have the ability to learn? I find that one of the challenging things today in this world is, I think we have come to a point that we don't really learn as much as we're supposed to do. And I find people don't read enough. That's the problem here. But in the next 5 years, I think it's very critical if we want to be successful. If you want to be very successful in your career, you want to be successful in how to take yourself to the next level of performance, the ability to learn is a very, very important fundamental. Knowledge we can acquire, okay? And what is important is that we shouldn't have the issue of acquiring information. Today, information are abundance. But the question is, how do we acquire those information? All right. So I think that's a very important part that we must recognize. Number one, to look at this. And what is also interesting is that the advancement in technology is just incredible. It expedited in the last 5 years. I mean, for example, I don't know many of you are aware, and I'm saying this is a buzzword now, ChatGPT, all right, or any of the AI technologies that's out in the market. Is godsend, in my opinion. It's so incredible. All you need to do is you're talking to a computer, but the way you do is you're like talking to an individual. So I think technology has advanced so much that it's just incredible. But the other side of it, the dark side of it, is the global economy are also changing in many, many ways. I think we have to ask ourselves the question is, are we adapting to the changes? Are we fast enough to understand the changes? Are we fast enough to acquire the technology that enables us to do things that is important? For me, learning is very important. How fast you learn is a very critical part to whether you're going to be successful or more successful than your peers. All right. So I think that is something that we have to realize that this is the trend. All right. So which means to say, today I want to stress something quite important is how fast you learn. Whether your ability to learn or not becomes a very important fundamental here. Okay. The second important part we have to do is this. Some people ask me the question, what is knowledgeable professionals? I think knowledgeable profession is not just a person who is knowledgeable. I think there are two very important elements as far as knowledge and competency is concerned. Is number one, you must be able to drive innovations. You must be able to do things differently. And also, it must provide you the ability to seek new opportunities. So these are very, very important aspects as far as concerned. We have a lot of information. Everybody are knowledgeable, but the question is, are you able to drive innovations? Or you are doing the same thing 5 years ago and today you're still doing the same old thing. And you haven't changed anything. So I think that is something that all of us must agree that it is not good enough. Now, the other also very important part is this. Because of this changing fundamental, because now we require not only just what we know, we also need to seek information from any other sources. So collaboration becomes very important. If you want to be a knowledge worker, you have to collaborate effectively. In other words, it is about a sum of information, sum of ideas that come together that make it work. So everybody has to be very clear. I think ego put aside today is you're good, but it's not good enough if you're not able to work with people. And the other thing I think is important, people must understand is ideas are very important, but are you able to communicate ideas clearly? So I just want to share with you very important part about people always say knowledge worker, but do we really understand what it is? The other thing we have to also understand is we must adapt to change because circumstances, things change very, very fast. Okay. You won't believe that, what you know maybe yesterday or 1 year ago might not be good enough. Circumstances have changed, requirements have changed, business fundamentals have changed. So we cannot go and look at the old model of doing things. So a knowledge worker must be able to understand that changes is inevitable. The question, how do you adapt to those changes? All right. So in other words, we have to agree one thing is that we must be able to acquire knowledge. We must be professionals, okay, competence so that we can be successful in the next 3 to 5 years. I want you want to talk about 10 years in the next 3 to 5 years. I think that's a very important aspect of it. Okay, so that means to say, today I want to address one very important part, which is what this program is all about, is we must learn quickly. We must learn quickly. We must be able to, for example, somebody learns, let's say, for example, a new technology, how fast you apply the technology. I think that's a very important thing. And then we must be able to position ourselves out and strive in a rapidly changing world. Okay, that is something that all of us must agree to do that. Now, the other very important part I want to share with you is, at the end of the day, what is the bottom line is that we must be valued. We must be recognized. And more importantly is we must be rewarded. I think that's a very important part, that we must be rewarded. For managers, for the CEOs, I will hope that the next ideas you need to do is, I want you to take these ideas and apply it at the workplace. I don't want people to end up with very operational work. We have to start thinking about more creative way of how doing things here. All right, so that is the things that I will be covering here. The next thing we go into the subject matter is how do we become a learning, how we become a knowledgeable and competent professionals. There are 8 key important elements that I want to address today, just to share with you this, all right? But first of all, let's look at building the foundation first. Now, you cannot be a learning, you cannot be a knowledgeable, you cannot be competent. First of all, is the foundations are not right. So the first thing you need to do is to understand what are the critical behavior and the new work attitudes, the work attitude that we have to adapt. All right, these are very, very important element here. So this is I'll just quickly share with you. This is, first of all, number one is you must have a growth mindset. All right, you must have a growth mindset, which means to say you have to put hard work. There's no two way about it. Put hard work, okay? You have to be persistently. You always can please somebody off the mute your mic, please, so that we don't have interference. Unless you want to talk, there you're on the mic. All right. So I think it's very important. Pavi, can you mute whoever that's the sound, please? All right, thanks. So I think it's very important. You must have a growth mindset. You must hard work. There's no two way about it. Today, you have to work even harder because we are competing. Everybody have almost the same playing field. I think that's a very important part. And as you mentioned, one of the very important attribute is continuous learning. Never stop learning. Now, I think last week I covered one very important, what's continuous learning is that if you learn a software, don't just say, oh, I want to apply new software. You keep looking new ways of doing things. What I find that people do not learn enough, and that is a problem. When you don't learn enough, for example, like Excel, Microsoft Word, you don't learn enough. You're not able to take it to the next level of performance, the next level of effectiveness. So I think we must develop the attitude of continuous learning, all right? Always tell yourself, what you know today is not good enough for tomorrow. That is where you cultivate the right critical behavior. The other thing is, don't wait for things to happen. You have to take initiative to make things happen. And again, the fourth part, very interesting, collaborations, okay? Always remember, A truly learning and knowledgeable professional is a team player. You have to be a team player. You have to change your attitude that you yourself might be very good in something, but you yourself will not be good enough to be able to change the network. Forming teamwork and asking questions and collaborating with people can be a very fundamental issue. This is something that you need to address. You must also take responsibility. Don't go on a blame game in the sense that if something is wrong, admit it. It doesn't matter whether you're a manager, you're a senior manager, it's something that you don't really get it done correctly. You must take accountability. And persistency is another very important aspect of it because we face many challenges. If you do something wrong, I always tell people, if something is wrong, it's not because you could do the wrong thing, it's maybe certain things you didn't do it correctly. So you have to be persistent and find out where are the problems. And the last part is humility, means to say that no more egos. All right. So the world has changed a lot. The world has no place for ego anymore. You have to understand this. If you want to be a learning, you want to acquire to become a very effective professional, there's no more egos. All right. So I think that's something that everyone, and we must encourage them. I will tell people, look, these are the critical behavior that if you want to transform your career to the next level. All right. Now, I also come up with how to get started. I think first thing first, which I find quite sad, is that many of us never actually do a self-analysis. Never find out where are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. The first thing what I would like to do is I will tell my staff, I always do this, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Because if we do not know what we are good at and what we are not good at, anything you do, we're not going to take you very far. Anything you do is just do it for the sake of doing it. So one of the things I would like everybody to do conduct in your organization is do a strengths and weakness analysis. Of course, I would like you to take the 7 elements that I share with you, whether what are your strengths, is it your weaknesses, okay? And more importantly, take corrective actions. In other words, it is about time. People must stop firefighting in the workplace. People must allocate time to do something because we always want to get results, we also want to get revenue, but we've forgotten that these are so important because human capital are the most critical resources in the next 3 to 5 years. It is so difficult to get good people. But if you put in your effort, you can develop quality people as well. All right. And the second part I also feel is very important. I find people don't have a personal development plan. They go in, go out every day, just try to do the things they want to do. All right. Development plan, personal is about 4 or 5 things that you think you want to improve yourself. And this is very interesting because sometimes I ask people, what are your personal plans? What are your personal development plans? Ask this question to yourself. What are your personal development plans? Now, if you, and this is quite interesting because sometimes you find that people cannot give you an answer. That means to say you do not know what it takes you to be successful. All right. So I find that start this thing right first. If you want to develop a very powerful human capital resource in your organization, conduct this little exercise. You'll be very surprised. You can learn a lot about yourself. You can learn a lot about your team. You can open up new dimensions so that your team begin to understand the issues pertaining to how can you be more successful. All right. So to me, this is the basic foundations that if you want to acquire knowledge, you want to be learning capability. All right. Okay. Now, if anyone wants this particular PowerPoint presentation slide, you just have to key into the chat and send your emails and we will send this information to you. We don't simply send information unless you feel there's a need to send this information here. All right. Okay. Now, the next part, yes, is this. This is technology, critical decision. Now, the second part is very critical. I find very unfortunately is this. Many people, because of fast computers, because of technology, I find more and more people are not able to manage information effectively. And the worst part is they can't even retrieve information at all. This is a big problem. I want to ask you this question. Have any of you ever encountered a situation, okay, you save a file or you save information into your notebook And 3 days later, you don't even know where is it, where you place the folders and so forth. All right? This is a big problem. How can you progress something and you want to be successful, but the basic foundation, you can't even manage the information that you have? So basically, what I find is majority waste a lot of time just spending time looking for something, looking for your key, looking for information. Let me just share with you this. 14, 15 years ago, I waste a lot of time looking for files. I can tell one thing today, okay, looking for files, looking for information are things of the past. Yes, I still spend maybe 10%, 5%, not even 10%, 5% sometimes because I deal with huge amount of information. Now, I think everybody must address this issue because I think it's a major problem in many workplaces. Now, you'll find that people waste too much time. And that's why they end up firefighting. They don't have time to look at things that are fundamentally important. All right. So I think that is something that what do you call it? Okay. So I think it's important that you all must recognize this. All right. This is a big problem. The faster the laptop you have, the more problem you have in retrieving the files. And I find people are not organizing the file very, very well. All right. So one of the things that I will recommend basically is this. Okay, we had to solve this problem. Now, I'm going to share something with you, which I think many people have taken for granted. It's what we call dashboarding. There are two very important parts that I think you all must spend time doing effective things, doing activity that makes a difference. And these two activities is dashboarding and streamline the file management through dynamic naming convention. You see, we just simply a file and we just put it down. What is dashboarding? Now, let me quickly to you what is dashboarding. Now, hold on, sometimes it doesn't respond. Okay, dashboarding simply means to say that when you want to access a piece of information, you only have one platform, and then you will look at its information and you can retrieve information very, very quickly. Now, let me just share with you this. You can apply this even in education. I think it's very important. I find that we have to make our students, some of you in the education platform, the most successful, we must make our student good. And to make our student good is we must help them to access information. Okay, but let me show you that what is a dashboard. I'm going to click here. This is to show you a simple dashboard. Now, this is a dashboarding. Now, I do a dashboarding means that I don't look for files. If I want to look for certain information, I just click in here. I have all my folders inside by the name. So in other words, this is a typical example of dashboarding. Means I don't have to even worry where's my folders. I just open up, I can see my folders. If I want to refer to, let's say, for example, corporate profiles, I look at corporate profiles. I can look at corporate profiles. I can see the things I want to present in whatever manner. I can just add it in the dashboarding. If I have to send a file to my client who requires a PDF files, I just go in here and pick the PDF files. I can pick up all the PDF files. I can then organize and send the files to any particular manner here. All right. So I want to do, let's say I want to go and create a proposal. I just click here. I have all my file here. I can just open any one of them and all the customer lists are inside here and I can organize it in this manner. Now, this is called dashboarding. So this is one example of dashboarding. Very important. Now, I can also organize a training program. For example, I have a training program here. This is a training program. Now, training is no more linear in the sense that this is multi-dimensional. All right. So if I want to look for, let's say, for example, a piece of information here, I can click on this tab and it will allow me to see a particular piece of information here. Now, so when you do dashboarding, it's very important because dashboard allows you to communicate, to collaborate. You can create a platform in which people can collaborate. There are a lot of collaborating too, but sometimes you have to customize the collaborating. If I want to see rating point system, I click over, I can go there, I can then click it back. Now, which means to say that I can click on the main page. I want to look at subject matters. I can go in here and I can pick up any information that I want to do this. Now, guys, let me assure you one thing is this. This is so mission critical that you have to get it organized. Now, when I do projects with my client, for example, I do project with my client, And because the data could come in over a period of 2-3 months, I use a dashboard. I create a dashboard so that when I want to do a training, I can go into a dashboard, I can do a training, I send them the files, they want to do the files, they want to look at job positions, I click over here, and I can update the data to them very, very quickly without much of a difficulties. So I don't have to worry about, let me just hold on to this. Okay, so I can actually put full screen. Okay, I can then close the file and I can straight away go anywhere that I want to do this. So this is an example of a dashboarding. Okay, so of course I can end the session. Now the materials I have here is all based on dashboarding. So dashboarding basically allow you to do this. But just can imagine if I'm a lecturer and I want to teach my students a subject matter and I want to send in the information so that eventually I can update information very fast. So which means to say, I just have to send a Google Drive, they plug it in, and today we call plug and play. So dashboarding is a very important part today. And I find that many people, and take for example, you know what I do here? I just use a PowerPoint only. Okay, I can do dashboarding in any platforms that I need to platform, but in this case, I just show you a simple way of doing dashboarding using PowerPoint. All right, so that will give you an idea about what is dashboarding. So I would like you to start something very simple first. Okay, something simple of what is, okay, you could have a file. You could start with something first. After I show some other platforms that you can do dashboarding, but I feel the easiest way to do dashboarding for the time being now is to using some form of PowerPoint. All right, you can use Excel to do dashboarding. You can even use Microsoft Word to do dashboarding as well. But the concept you need to do is you know what you want to do here. Take for example here because it is a project, so we go stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Now, if I were in the construction industry, for example, and I want to manage the projects, I want to know status of the projects, I can actually organize something simple. Of course, this is very, very, very detailed part of what we do, because if you look carefully, this is a project itself. All right, so I create what we call dashboarding in that particular manner. Now, you can apply in education as well, because I've seen there's quite a number of you who from the university or from educated background. I think you should also look at using this to apply in how do you lecture a student. The concept today, the criteria is how do you share the data. All right. So that is the. Now, if some of you are interested, we can do a separate Zoom and we discuss about how dashboarding can be done. But today will not be the right platform to do that. All right. Okay. Okay. So any other question about this? Of course, the other thing is naming convention, which is also very important. This is typical what most people do for files, but today you have to organize it by folders. You have to organize by folders, things like this. And let me also share with you is filing system is very dynamic. Okay, so instead of this way of organizing a file, you organize it in this particular manner here. So that is how you do filing management. So take, for example, if I want to look at file here, I have one file to organize it here. All right, so this is how I name my files and the folders. Then I have business development. I organize by the year. Now, it's very dynamic. I'm not saying that what I have here will apply to you, but I find that people just simply put file, never put enough thoughts into when I want to retrieve the files. All right, so these are something that is that you can apply on it here. All right. Okay. So I'm going to click back here and I'll return back to. So you can see this is actually part of dashboarding in many, many ways here. All right. Okay. Okay. The third very important part to be a learning knowledgeable professional is that we have to realize one thing is this. Now, we cannot wait. Okay, performance don't wait for you. We have to achieve a whole new level of performance. In other words, today it must be quantitative. People always tell me, oh, KPI is qualitative. There's no such thing. You must base on quantitative result. If then not only that, you must deliver with speed and quality. It's not whether you get it done, but get it done with quality, get it done with speed. So in other words, Now, once you do that, we need to have clarity. What are the activity we want to do? It's not about doing a lot of activity. A lot of people are very busy every day. Let me just share with you this. Okay, we can be busy every day, but yet we do not know where you want to go forward. So clarity is very important. In other words, what you do today, okay, has an impact what will happen to you in the next 3 to 5 months. So that means to say, what is important is we want to have performance, we want to have results, okay? And we cannot afford keep putting on firefighting all the time. And we have to learn to change that, all right? So I think that's important. So how to do that? Objectives are very, very important, okay? Not only to have an objective must be clear and it must be balanced, okay? If we want to be successful, we call mission successful. It is very, very crucial. So today, we cannot afford to have what we call headless chicken running around. Yeah, they're very busy running around. Today, as a CEOs, as a senior management, we've got to make sure that every activity are coordinated. But the question, how do you coordinate an activity? That means to say, unless we provide people a clarity on what are the objectives. So we will strongly recommend to do that. Action to be taken is get people to develop objective statement with performance metrics and target range. Only when you have target range can you actually do quantitative results. All right. The good news to share with you is that we will be running a public workshop on the 13th and 14th, okay, which actually precisely cover these areas. All right. So we're going to share with you. I'm going to go in depth later on to share, but it's so critical today. And people must understand how to develop objective statements. Now, if you ask me, KPI is not the most important thing. We can change measures if measures doesn't work. But if your objectives are not clear, no matter what you do, it doesn't help. So I also find a lot of people develop a lot of KPI with no objective. So objectives are the most important part. That is where we guide and govern people how to drive performance here. All right, I will cover back later, but just want to share with you this. So if I were to go back to the organization, I will going to ask myself, do you all have clear objectives? Asking that question itself, you put a lot of people to start thinking, all right? Then what you're going to measure for it. But always remember, if the measures are not right, eventually you'll get it right. But if the objectives are wrong, okay, no matter what you do, you'll never measure the right thing. So that is why it's so critical. So every time we should ask ourselves, what is the purpose? Why are we doing this? All right, that will help to create the ability to learn. Sometimes the best learning is you learn what you do not know. All right. Okay. It's so important. Okay. You have to learn what you do not know. So these are some of the fundamental things that we need to address it. Okay. Fourth area is continue to enhance the utilizer available information technology. Now, this is really a challenge because I find that we are all bombarded with a lot of latest and the greatest softwares. Now, I find that it's very interesting because everybody keep learning new software, keep coming in new software. But what we discover is that when they change the softwares or change a tool is this. I don't mind people change a tool is because they really outlive the ability to perform using the tool. But the unfortunate thing is we find people change an application where in actual fact, they only learn only 5% and then they go and change a new tool. 5% then change a new tool. Now, this is a problem. Excel is so powerful. Excel today is just incredible. PowerPoint is so powerful, but I don't know how people use PowerPoint. So in other words, I find this is very sad because people do not spend enough time exploring possibility with an existing tools. Now, just an analogy here, because I love photography, okay? I find quite incredible that when there's a new camera, they will say, oh, I need a new latest camera because it will help me to take better picture. But the truth of the situation is you can use an old camera that could 2006, you can take fantastic picture that's provided you know how to use the features available in the tools. So I think this is very important. I think all of you should go back and look at the existing tool. What can we take it to the next level? All right. So instead of looking for new tools, look at what can you get out of the best from the tools that you have here. I think that's a very important part here. And I think people do not spend enough time to look at the existing tool here. All right. I will show you the PowerPoint. You can see the PowerPoint is
ada audio. Okay,
it's just different aspect of it here. All right. How to get started? I think everyone, those in university, if you use a tool, always explore possibility. Could I take it to the next level? Could I find new ways of doing things? Could I look at, for example, if you're using a project management software, I find people just use very, very basic things. They're not taking enough to that level. So what I think is important, I just use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint just an example. It could be other tools that you use. It could be Google Sheet. I'm not referring to any particular tools, but I think it's very important that you have to keep exploring what new features, new capabilities that you can do with it. All right. Take for example, in this case, I just use a PowerPoint. All right. But I can do a PowerPoint in such a way it becomes a learning science. I incorporate learning science into a PowerPoint. Why? Because we have clicked. And what is interesting about PowerPoint, if I click on it, it doesn't move. Why? Because some of you might have this PowerPoint. I can send it to you and it doesn't move at all. All right. So sorry, I just accidentally click here. So it doesn't move. So you have to be very clear about some of the design that you want to do here. All right. So these are, to me, very important. Please don't keep changing tools. It's not going to help you very far. All right. Same thing is you have a new car. Okay. You probably, after 1 year later, you probably only learn maybe 20-30% of what your car can do or whatever things you need to do. So I think it's important to get started. Get everybody in the company. Ask them this question. Can you use this tool to the next level? So this is a very important aspect in order to transform your human capitals. Okay? All right. Okay, let's go to the next part here. Allocating time for analysis. This is very critical if you want to be a learning workers, a learning professionals. I think analysis is no longer just for the top management. I think individual must train to do analysis at every level. Data are very important thing. You can allow data, but you don't use up the data and don't understand how to massage the data. It is a big problem. So in other words, we must know how to organize the data so that eventually we have to train, even now executive level, how to do analysis. I find that people do not spend enough time to do analysis. This is a very important thing. And analytical thinking skill can be developed. Let me just share with you this. It is not difficult to develop, but organization must train the executive, the human capital, to able to analyze, to be able to think. Thinking is a skill that I find many people are lacking. Only the top executive are able to think. Now, what's the problem? So I suggest something very interesting. Try it out, okay? I find that this is very amazing. This is a technique that I use it for many, many years. I teach my people to do this technique. It's called spending the first 50 minutes of each working day thinking of nothing for the next 2 weeks. Now, this is amazing. My time is crazy. You know, you come into the morning, every morning, you spend 50 minutes. You don't rush the word think. Because when you spend 2 weeks, every morning spending 15 minutes to think, you will slowly train yourself that you can think. Thinking is a very important art, all right? At the same time, leveraging on technological tool at the workplace. Encourage people to organize data in a structured manner, all right? It can be very simple data. It could be just, I want to capture how many input you want to do. It could be how many people log in. Doesn't matter. Start with something simple enough, all right? So, which I feel is a very important part today that we want to take people to the next level, all right? So you can analytical tool, you can massage the data in any particular manner that you want to, all right? So later part, let me see. If I got time, I will then cover this part in more detail to share with you that you can actually do a lot of things here, all right? So please remember, train yourself to analyze, train yourself to think, all right? So these are very important foundations. Find people do not spend enough time to think, all right? Thinking will take you very, very far here. The sixth very important part, other than thinking, is this is so, so important. Automating repetitive and past creative process. This, in other words, is I find people get stuck in the cycle of repetitive, every day doing the same old thing. Okay, especially the supervisor, the non-executive, we engage them, we employ them, but we pay them to keep doing repetitive tasks. And the problem is repetitive tasks is the most unproductive, the most boring activity you need to do. All right. So what is a very important thing is don't take pride, oh, this is my work. The question is, how can I make 10 other people do my job? That's very important thing. So in other words, we have to, I have one statement here, it's very simple. Humans should not carry any form of repetitive work at the workplace. In other words, I don't encourage my staff. I always tell them 9 to 5, 5 o'clock, please get home, go home, because I think it's a very important thing. So once we start learning how to manage this time, because balanced life is also very important, then you start how to get value from the work that you need to do. Okay? So in other words, how to solve this problem? Okay, I would suggest it's like this. Develop smart tools. Now, you don't have to have very I'm going to show some smart tool, it's very important, but I'm going to cover the smart tool later, but I think apply what we call the 70-30 rules at the workplace. 70% of the time, do what you need to do, operationally speaking. 30% of the time, do something has nothing to do, operation, nothing to do what you want to do today or what you want to do tomorrow. So this is so important because I think all of us, I find very sad that everybody are now firefighting, do a lot of activity, but it's not the activity that makes sense. It is doing the right activity. In other words, you must train people to spend 30% of their time thinking of something that might have impact on their life 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from today. All right, so there's a 70-30 rules. All right, so how to solve this problem is, I always say at the end of the month, please tell me what are the things that you have learned that might not have impact on operational, but might impact 6 months, 1 year later. All right, okay, so there are 2 parts here to get started is start applying these 70-30 rules. All right, I will ask you, what is it that you're doing that might impact your work 6 months later? If the person cannot tell you that, it means to say that we have to figure out what is it that matters. All right. So I think that's very important. Now, smart tools. What are smart tools? Now, I will show some example of smart tool here. Now, smart tool can be very simple. It can be a very simple thing. So everything we do in our office today is smart tool. Let me tell you, smart tool will easily cut down our time to do work by at least 70-80% of the time. All right. 70-80% of the time. Take, for example, I'll show you another one which is not inside here. Is this? Take, for example, if I want to manage finance, it could be, now, some of you might want this, I can, we call financial trackers, all right? So I can even develop a smart tool where you can do tracking of your finance, okay? We know very well we need to keep doing all this all the time. We don't want to do that. I want to manage my details. All my details are here, okay? So I can just go back here. I want to track my, let's say, for example, transactions. I can do a transaction. So everything organized for me. I can see the information in this place. So these are smart tools. I want to see, for example, I want to see the overall statistic. So again, analytics as well. So part of the thing is that we don't do repetitive work all the time. You key in the data, you were able to give us the data in this manner. So this is just one example of a smart tool. All right. So in this case, I'll just show it. I can also have a smart tool where, for example, in this case, I want to do KPI. Okay, so this is one of the tools that you're going to get if you attend on the 13 and 14, this one. So it takes a little bit. Okay, so this is a smart tool. So in other words, I like in this case, Excel, there's no tab. I want to go into folders. I click on the folders. I want to select the measures. I click on the measures. All right. I want these measures. I click on it. Smart tools. I just have to paste. All right. I can just paste the data. Okay. In this case, what happened here? Let me just show you this. I just try to change it to all so that you were able to display. So I can do this. I want to select an objective statement. I click over here. All right. I can look at objective statement. I click here. Okay, gone are the day where we need to key in data, you see. We don't need to key in data anymore. So these are smart tools. If I want to go back, I can click back here. Okay, I can go back, and after that, wherever appear, it will come out in this manner. So these are some of the interesting smart tools that you can do. So I will advise that everybody, you must train everybody in the company to think about smart tools. What is it that are repetitive? So sit down, organize, go back and organize and return. I won't go too much in detail here, but I just want to share with you that you go back and create simple tools. Don't have to be so complicated. It could be something simple enough. So what I suggest is organize a meeting, ask what are the things that our people or my staff are doing repetitive work. Can I automate it or not? So I think that's a very important element of today's, that if you want to be learning, knowledgeable and competent professional. So we had to cut down repetitive work. Let me just share with you this. This is amazing. The piece of work last time in 2014, we used to take 5 mandates to do it. Today, if I will tell you, it will take half an hour. From 5 mandates, we reduce to half an hour because everything is highly automated, all right, in this space. Let me also share with you this. In other words, you have to learn macro, you have to learn, macro actually is a command, a command that you can create it. And if you do not know how to learn macro, go to ChatGPT again. All right, these are little clue I will share with you this, you can advance this. Allow time to manage unplanned tasks. I think that's important. Chaos is part and parcel of our life. We cannot be so rigid and say this is the way how to do it. In other words, every time when you plan something, you must always say there will be something that happen. How do you manage unplanned tasks? Because managing chaos is a way of working life. Because it will give you opportunity, it gives you possibility. So I think that's important that all of us must realize that we must be able to manage chaos, all right? So that is very important. I always have a problem here sometimes. So what I suggest is use this simple step. I will suggest is this, these are proven methods, okay? I use it very effectively. It doesn't solve all my problem, it solves at least 70, 80%. Number one is prioritize existing tasks. So ask people coming, please have a clear idea. What are the things that are most important you need to do? Then when there's an unplanned activity that comes along, suddenly do a quick assessment. Spend about 5-10 minutes and say, okay, how do I go about doing it? Now, once you've decided already, see whether you can do adjusting your schedule. And then more important, make everybody understand the issues so that people will understand, okay, we need to communicate. And then more important thing is be flexible. Don't say, so I find some people are rigid, this is the only way, no other way. This is how I'm going to do it. So staying flexibility, to be flexible is very, very important part. Okay. Now, the next part, last one is very important. This is so important. Keep things simple. I find it's very interesting. Do you know to keep things simple is actually the most difficult thing in the world? It is very easy to make something very complex because we will justify a lot of things. So I think we need to have a motto in the sense of organization. How do we keep things simple? So to keep things simple is really incredible, quite challenging. For example, when I organize this PowerPoint to share with you, okay, I'm not saying that it is very, I try to make, but I try to organize in such a way that when I give it to you, you all know how to use it. You know how to click, for example, like here, this is our object base. Now, when I have an object base, I can click here, 5. I can again go back here. This is to keep it simple, but it takes a lot of effort to make something simple. So if I want to change my students to do something, to learn something, if I have a syllabus, and I know that the syllabus require a lot of interchange of, I could be something you learned 3 months ago, and I want the student that if you don't know, I click on it, he or she can find the information. That is learn how to keep things simple. All right. So when you do this, and when you learn how to keep things simple, there's something very interesting. Clarity, you're able to achieve clarity. You're able to achieve understanding. You're able to know what you do not know, and you can improve the outcome. So I think that's a very important part of how we keep things simple. All right. So what I suggest a couple of things is taking more time to plan. I think that's an important thing. You have to start with something planning first, and then you have to, and what I find very interesting is Don't jump straight to do something. Now, what I find quite interesting is many people have this, tell you what to do. Then when you go back, train your staff. If I tell you what to do, okay, discuss already, go back. Don't straight do the task. Spend about 10 minutes to think about what your boss has told you or tell you what the instructions are about or we have discussed about it and reflect on it. I think that's very, very important. I just want to share some secret that I do very well. If I do a project, you'll be amazed. I spend more time thinking than actually doing the work, because when I spend more time thinking about it, I am not doing less work. But if I don't think and plan about it, there's no way I can keep things simple. I'm not telling you this is 100% foolproof, but I can guarantee you were able to see significant result in that aspect of it. All right. So these are the 8 things that I want to share with you. Number 1, okay, is I think critical behaviors and attitude. Guys, please take note of this 7 element. Number 2, I think this is mission critical, because I find that a lot of time we cannot move forward because we're just simply overwhelmed with not able to retrieve information and manage information. Number 3, I think is important is, look, we need to measure performance. We need to take our performance to the next level. The only thing you can progress, provided we keep challenging ourselves how to further improve, and we can measure our improvement. So new level of performance are equally important. I just want to sum up. The last part, the next part is very important. Please don't keep finding new tools to use. Finding existing, how can I make better? How can I transform the things to be better? So I think this is very important. Next one is critical. Train everybody to think. Train everybody to organize the data. Now, sometimes it can be very simple data. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be very complex. Organize something simple. Okay, organize the data. All right. Because if you don't organize the data, people were not able to understand the relationship. It could be very simple as a tea lady. I say, okay, every month, I will say, okay, this out of 10 points, you get 8 points, 7 points, 8 points. Then we look at it. Then we can see that she can see, oh, actual fact, July, I wasn't being productive because of these issues and so forth. It could be something as simple as that. All right. Next, I want to share with you is, you please, very important thing is, don't allow anybody in the company to keep repeating, doing the same old task all the time. Accounts, please remember, don't go and keep doing the same data entry. Question is, how can I make this person perform better? Not by doing more job, but doing more effective jobs. All right. Next part is very important. We must make sure that we are flexible, we can manage more things. And the 8th element is, how do I keep things simple?